Jai Hind to all. Today we will be discussing Lesson 6, Class 11 Biology NCERT, Anatomy of Flowering Plants. The topic of discussion for today is the tissues and the tissue system. The tissues. A tissue is a group of cells having a common origin and usually performing a common function. A plant is made up of different kinds of tissues. Tissues are classified into two main groups, namely meristematic and permanent tissues, based on whether the cells being formed are capable of dividing or not. Plant tissue classification. Plant tissues, they may be meristematic or permanent. Meristematic cells are capable of division. In permanent tissue, mature cells are present which are incapable of cell division. Permanent tissue is further divided into simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue is composed of single type of cells. Complex permanent tissue is composed of more than one type of cell. Simple permanent tissue is further grouped into parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma and collenchyma are known as chlorenchyma if there is presence of chlorophyll. Complex permanent tissue can be divided into xylem and phloem. Xylem is composed of xylem vessels and tracheids, and phloem is composed of sieve tubes and companion cells. So here you can see the parts of a plant. A plant has two main parts, the root part and the shoot part, and at the tips the meristematic tissue is present. So there are two tips, shoot tip and root tip. Meristem, region of actively dividing cells. So there is apical meristem and lateral meristem, shoot apex and root apex. Lateral meristem, it includes vascular and cork cambium, and the meristematic cells further differentiate to form permanent tissues. So cell differentiation occurs in two ways. One is elongation of the cell or expansion of the cell, and then the maturation or specialization of the cell so that the cells may perform specialized functions. There are three broad tissues present. The tissue systems are dermal, that is making up outer layers of the plant, vascular, that is responsible for conduction, ground tissue, that is between dermal and vascular. So the difference between simple and complex permanent tissue is that simple permanent tissue is composed of one type of cell and complex tissue is formed of two or more cell types. So in a plant, the organization is into organs, tissues and cells. So organs of the plant are root, stem and leaves. And these roots, stems and leaves, they are composed of three types of tissue: ground tissue, vascular tissue and dermal tissue. Ground tissue is composed of ground tissue cells, that is parenchyma and collenchyma. Vascular tissue is composed of vascular tissue cells, that is the tracheids and the vessel elements, and sieve tubes and companion cells. Dermal tissue cells, they are made up of epidermal cells and stomata, trichomes. Now the ground tissue cells, parenchyma and sclerenchyma, they are also associated with xylem and phloem. Ground tissue, that is parenchyma and chlorenchyma. Parenchyma for general metabolism and chlorenchyma for providing support. Parenchyma has got isodimetric to elongate cells. In chlorenchyma, the cells are elongate. In parenchyma, there is primary cell wall. In chlorenchyma, primary cell wall is thick, uneven, rich in pectin. At the corners, the thickenings are present. In parenchyma and both chlorenchyma, the cells are living. Then the ground tissue cells, sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma has got secondary wall plus the primary wall. These cells, they are dead at maturity. Usually they are dead, and they may be of two types: fibers that elongate sharply and they are tapering, as you can see in the figure, and sclerites, that is isodimetric to irregular cells with thickenings present. Vascular tissue, xylem, that is for conduction of water and minerals. It is composed of trachy elements, that is parenchyma, trachy elements and parenchyma, sclerenchyma, trachy elements like tracheids, vessels. Phloem is composed of sieve members, that is sieve tube cells, companion cells, parenchyma, sclerenchyma, and is mainly responsible for conduction of sugar. And both are complex tissues. So we can see the trachy elements over here, tracheids as well as vessels. Tracheids, they are imperforate, there are no perforations. In vessels, perforations are present. Sieve elements, sieve cells, no sieve plates, sieve tube members have got sieve plates. Then the dermal tissue and secretory tissues and cells. So we can see the epidermal cells in the cell wall. Then the secretory cells like nectaries under the ovary in flowers. Then the stomata on the epidermis, certain glands and lacticifers. Dermal tissue, it also includes trichomes, that is thick hairs present on the stem. So what we have learnt during the discussion: anatomically, a plant is made up of different kinds of tissues. The plant tissues are broadly classified into meristematic, that is apical, lateral and intercalary, and permanent, that is simple and complex, assimilation of food and its storage, transportation of food, water, minerals and photosynthetics, and mechanical support are the main functions of tissues. There are three types of tissue systems: epidermal, ground and vascular. The epidermal tissue systems are made of epidermal cells, stomata and the epidermal appendages. The ground tissue forms the main bulk of the plant. It is divided into three zones: cortex, pericycle and pith. The vascular tissue system is formed by the xylem and phloem. So thank you and Jai Hind to all.